Hey there, Philos here. This video is going to be on the group Greater Rift build for Demon Hunter. So, I just want to kind of glance over a few key items and just talk about the idea in general. It's very similar to other Demon Hunter builds. Basically just drop your sentries and spam your spenders. The only real important thing is going to be your sentry placement. To take advantage of your gems, you're going to want to put your sentries as far away from the target as you can while they're still doing damage. So, key items are going to be the Reaper Wraps. Standard for Demon Hunters to run these. You get the Hatred generation from Health Globes. As I mentioned, support characters can create lots of Health Globes. That's going to fuel your Hatred there. And the other key item is going to be your Cinder Coat. It gives you the fire resource reduction, fire damage, and you can get, like on here, I have sentry damage as well. So it's a really strong damage potential with the Cinder Coat through the resource reduction and the damage modifiers. Other than that, you need your standard M6. Stacking resource reduction is going to be ideal for your off stat. So when you're in a group and you have like a Crusader or a Monk grouping the monsters together, you're going to get really good value from Loaded for Bear. Cluster arrow here has the grenades that explode and do damage. As I mentioned, when the monsters are grouped and there's good density, the damage potential with this ability is off the charts. And you're also in the group able to take advantage of Spitfire Turret and still pick up Cull of the Weak and Bane of the Trapped. If you're in the group with support characters, they're usually going to be running Bane of the Trapped, and that's going to trigger your damage debuffs for you, so you can again utilize that Spitfire. You got the smokescreen displacement. This is nice for positioning. Whenever you have the Witch Doctor dropping Big Bad Voodoo, you want to be able to get into it, and this is going to help you avoid damage whenever you're trying to position and can save you from dying. When you die on the Demon Hunter, it really reduces your damage a lot because you have to redo all your sentries, and you know that takes time and resources, so it's really, you're better off just not dying. You can opt to take Vault here if you prefer. Some people don't like smokescreen and prefer Vault. Lately I've been really digging the smokescreen. Other options, most of my higher level Greater Rift experience is on hardcore. So on softcore you can actually drop smokescreen altogether and pick up some damage modifier, either Bait the Trap for the crit chance or the Mark for Death for the damage. Contagion, it's a really good damage debuff across the boards, and Grim Reaper is an option, helps you kill elites really quickly, and then Mortal Enemy is decent depending on the build, you might run with that. Here we have Preparation Punishment, just standard Hatred generation on a cooldown. Companion, likewise with the Marauder bonus, you obviously want to run Companion. For your passives, you got the Custom Engineering, it's going to give you an additional sentry and increase the duration. That's going to save you resources, not having to recast your sentries as often. Blood Vengeance for the Hatred generation. This is key in a group when you have a support Crusader or a support Witch Doctor. They each have different ways of spawning Health Globes, and that's going to fuel your cluster arrow spam throughout the rift. You're going to get a lot of Health Globes, so that's really good. Cull of the Weak, standard damage modifier. And then Awareness, again, standard cheat death. On softcore, you can, if you're confident in your group's ability to control the monsters, you can actually get rid of Awareness and pick up some other damage modifier like Steady Aim or Archery. If you have a Hellfire Amulet, this is also going to open up these options for damage modifiers. Currently, I have singled out on my amulet. It's decent for the group, it helps a lot against the Rift Guardian, increases your single target damage. So let's quickly just go through the itemization and the stats that you want. The big stat that you want to focus on stacking is resource reduction. So pretty much everywhere that you have room to fit some modifier, you're going to want that resource reduction. So on your weapon, it's pretty much what you want here. You get your 10% damage, good damage range, dexterity, resource reduction, and then a socket. On your ring for the SOJ, you would like to land with a socket, that way you can roll the dexterity into crit damage. However, that roll is kind of rare, so take what you can get for the SOJ. On the gloves, you want your dual crit and your resource reduction. On the shoulders, you would like sentry damage, resource reduction, area damage, and dexterity. On the helmet, cluster arrow, crit chance, dexterity, and a socket. In the cinder coat, we already kind of touched base on. You get your fire damage, dexterity, sentry, and 3 sockets. Again, this is key for the resource reduction. Witching hour, standard rolls here. You get your primary stats, attack speed, and crit damage. Pants, not any options here. You get your dexterity, primary stats, all res, double socket. Boots, same thing. Focus on the dexterity and the cluster arrow rolls. For the quiver, you want to make sure that you get your cluster arrow modifier, and then resource reduction is really good. You can fit in hatred generation or cooldown reduction on there. Ideally, you would have the resource reduction. On your ROG, you want dexterity, attack speed, crit damage, and the socket. On your bracers, your elemental damage, dexterity, vitality, crit chance. And on your necklace, you would like to have dual crit elemental damage socket, but Hellfire amulets with those rolls are quite rare, so a lot of times you're going to just take the dual crit dex socket, so it'll look like this. And the ideal passives for the Hellfire amulet singled out is really good. However, you would probably prefer either steady aim or archery. So your legendary gems are all going to be just for damage. Standard gems here, you got the Bane of the Trapped, Zay's Stone of Vengeance, and the Tagak. So that's the spec and the loot. Let's talk about the Paragon real quick. I've stopped taking the maximum hatred. When you're in a group, you don't really need the additional hatred. You're pretty much just always, your hatred's all over the place already, so you just kind of get your movement speed to 25 and then go all dexterity for your offensive. In the group, the cooldown reduction is less useful, so you want to just focus on your crit modifiers, usually crit damage, crit chance, and then attack speed, and then cooldown reduction would be last. For your defense, here you want to start with your mitigation, get your all-res armor, and then life percent. And then on utility, resource reduction is really good. In the group, the area damage is probably preferred, but these two are going to be the focus initially, and then life on hit and gold find last. This is actually pretty much the setup that I used for my hardcore progression when we did the Greater Rifts. And we are, at this point, on the hardcore leaderboard, we are rank 1 and 3s. So that's pretty cool. It's definitely a really strong build at the top. And like I said, the smokescreen displacement is kind of tuned for the hardcore. So that's up in the air. Flexible skill slot. There is a slight variation to this build. If you are lucky enough to find a decent kridershot, you can take advantage of this item in groups. With just a few changes to the build. Basically, you just pick up the elemental arrow with the immolation arrow, and then switch preparation punishment for mark for death with mortal enemy. This combination is really strong to generate hatred. The immolation arrow leaves a dot on the ground. Damage over time, it's going to tick, and it's going to trigger this mortal enemy. It's going to give really good hatred returns whenever you attack some monsters. So here we have some gameplay with the build, and again this is on hardcore 3-player. Just after the patch we did some 3s progression and we were able to push the bar pretty high on the 3s, and I'm just going to kind of leave you guys with this rift and the gameplay so you can kind of see. And I'll talk about some key things to keep in mind when you're in a group. Again, the assumption is that you have the Witch Doctor and the Crusader as the support, the ideal group comp at the moment is this. So, you know, like I said earlier, make sure your sentries are in the back. You can see I put my sentries way in the back to maximize the Zay's Stone of Vengeance. And then you want to stay close to the Witch Doctor and the Crusader, as close as possible, because they're going to be crowd controlling everything. That's going to keep you safe. And basically just follow them around. Make sure you stay in the slam dance as much as possible. The Witch Doctor is going to be casting Big Bad Voodoo, so you want to make sure that you can stay in that as much as possible. And there are going to be some things, if you're communicating with your group, for the Demon Hunter, like something I was doing throughout the Rift is I was calling out for health globes. Like right now, I'm asking pick up a health globe. So the Crusader knows when to scoop up health globes to maximize my damage potential. So that's the primary role for the Crusader, is to spawn the health globes for the Demon Hunter's hatred. So, and outside of the health globes, when there are no health globes, obviously you're going to want to use your cooldowns, punishment, and companion. And the reason that you have a generator is certain situations, depending on the density, there's not going to be a lot of health globes available. So you're going to want to be able to generate hatred on your own, especially on the Rift Guardian. There's not going to be a flood of health globes. So having the generator is definitely useful. However, throughout the Rift, you might not feel like you're getting much value out of the generator. But there's not really an option for something else there. And the big thing that the Demon Hunter has to keep track of is just sentry placement. You can see I kind of have them in a line here, where the sentries are in line of sight of this door. So, you know, as you're progressing through the Rift, depending on the map, you do want to pay attention to where you're putting your sentries, to where you don't have to recast them as often. You can kind of give value from the previous sentry as you progress into the next room. So, other than that, that's pretty much it. I mean, you just run around and spam cluster arrow, yell at the Crusader when you need hatred, and yell at the Witch Doctor whenever you get killed by an elite. That's pretty much it. So, hope this helps you guys kind of optimize for group runs a little bit. And like I said, I'll just leave you guys here with the rest of the footage. 51 on hardcore. It's quite intense.